And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a game about China. As a matter of fact, the game is China. And this is an area control and kind of route building type of game where you're going to be using cards in order to place houses and ambassadors into different regions of China in order to try and score points at the end of the game. You're going to be collecting cards to do this, and you're going to be playing those cards in order to place down your pieces in these different areas. This game is going to play for 3 to 5 players. It's by Abacus Spiel or distributed by Eagle Gryphon Games. So real quick, why don't we take a look at what you get inside this box. We'll look at how the game plays, and then we'll come back here and we'll get my final thoughts on this China-themed game. So here you can see the components for China, and before we get started, let me just go into the different ways of scoring, because it's going to be a lot easier to lay that out before than it is going to be to lay it out during. So each of these areas has a number of different houses on it. Each time you fill up one of these areas, you fill up all of the houses, you're going to score that region. And whoever has the majority in the region is going to get points for each house in that region. So in this case, this area is worth 7 points, and whoever has the majority in this region is going to get all of those points. Whoever is in second place in the region is going to get points equal to the number of houses of the person who has the majority. So if the majority person has 3 houses, the second place person is going to get 3 points. The third place person would get the number of points of the houses equal to the number of houses from the second place person. So you're always going to get either the full number, or whoever had first place, you're going to get that many points if you're second. Whoever had second place, you're going to get that many points if you're third, and so forth and so on. And once you filled up one of these areas and scored it, you're going to mark it with one of these to show that it's already been scored. Additionally, there are going to be what are called alliances at the end of the game. Each of these regions is bordering several other regions. You'll see Yan borders Qi here, and there's numbers in between them. After the game is over, which is after you've gone through this deck of cards twice, you're going to score all of the alliances. And alliances are scored by counting emissaries, which are these little pieces here. So you have the houses, which look like this, and you have the emissaries, which look like this. During the game, you'll be able to play these into the dragon spots, and how you play these is dependent on how many houses are in the regions and who has the majority, or how big the majority is. But you'll be able to play these during the game, and at the end of the game, you're going to look and see who has the majority of emissaries in each of the regions bordering where the alliance token is. So in this case, green obviously has the majority. Let's say that it was actually something like this. Green has the majority in both of these 2 regions. So they're going to score points equal to all of the emissaries in the region. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you'd move to the next one. And you'd see who has the majorities here. Now maybe green has the majority here, but yellow here. Well, you're not going to score anything here because you have to have the majority in both. And you get the idea. So you're going to score points from that. Finally, at the end of the game, you're also going to score points for having a row of houses equal to 4 or greater. So you want 4 or greater connected houses without branching. And for each house in that row, you're going to get extra points. Now, to play the game, each player is going to have a hand of cards. The cards are color coordinated with the different regions. You'll see you have green, yellow, orange, red, and purple, and there are cards that match these. The cards are not specific to a region, but rather specific to a color. So we have Wei and Shu here, which are going to be specific for these 2 regions, but not for anything else. Now, on your turn, you have your choice of basically either playing cards to put pieces out, or you're going to be able to simply exchange one of these cards for a different card on the table. That doesn't happen often. Usually you're just going to be playing cards out. Now, in order to play a card, at the beginning of the game, you're really only allowed to play 1 piece. And you're going to put out a card matching a region that you'd like to play into and simply put one of your pieces out. So maybe the green player wants to play into Wei. The rule is that if you're placing a piece into an unoccupied area, meaning there are no pieces in that area, you may only play 1 piece on your turn. And then you would draw a card back up to a hand limit of 3, adding that card to your hand. So maybe the green player takes this card, adds it to their hand, and they refill the face-up area. Once places have pieces in them, you are actually able to play multiple pieces into an area. So let's say that instead green had played over here in Zhao, and now it's the yellow player's turn. And they can play up to 2 pieces on their turn. And the real rule is you may play up to 3 cards to place 2 pieces into 1 area on your turn. Now in this case, the player would only have to play 2 cards to play 2 pieces into this area because they have 2 orange cards. So they could play 2 pieces into this area. Maybe they want to put out 2 houses. Instead of putting out 2 houses, they could use their 2 cards to put out a house and an emissary. The emissaries go on these dragon spots. Now, the number of emissaries that can be in an area is equal to whatever the majority number of houses is in an area. So right now, green has the majority with 1, or so does yellow. But if green were to have 2 here, then technically yellow could have instead put out 2 emissaries instead of a house and an emissary. And they're going to have the emissary majority here. Alternatively, if they didn't have the cards like this, they actually had maybe cards like this on their turn. They only had 1 orange, but they had 2 of these red colors. They could still accomplish this move by playing first their orange in order to play a piece out, and then second, any 2 cards of the same color as a wild in order to put another piece out into an area that they've already played in. So, for example, they could play those 2 cards to put a house out here. And that's going to be how your turns go. You're going to draw back up to 3. Maybe they want these 3 cards, or maybe they want 1 from the top of the deck. They put these all back into their hands, and they continue on. And as I said, you're going to score regions once they are full of houses. So if purple managed to get in here, and then green put the final house in here, you're going to score this region. In this case, green would get 5 points, and yellow and purple would each get 3 for being in second place, looking at the number of houses that green has. You're going to continue on in this manner until you go through this deck twice, and after the second time through the deck, you're going to score all of those different alliances between the regions. You're going to score the rows of houses. So, for example, if green had this house here instead, they're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 points for a straight row of houses. And whoever has the most points in this manner is going to be the winner. Now, there's one additional piece they give you, which are called fortifications. And on your turn, just like playing one of these other pieces, you can play your fortification down and then place a building on top of it. You're going to want to do this on the same turn because it costs a card to put your fortification out, and it costs a card to put your piece on it. And these pieces are neutral, so if you don't put something on it, someone else will. What this does is when you score a region that has one of these fortifications in it and it's underneath your building, you're going to get double points for that area. So instead of getting 5 points for this area, green would get 10. Additionally, at the end of the game, it's going to double the number of points you get for your row of houses. So in this case, instead of getting 4, they're going to get 8. So this is a little bit of an extra strategy point that they add in the game to give it a little bit more variability, to give it a little bit more of a boost in points for getting this piece out on the table in a clever manner. Using all of this, whoever gets the most points over that 2-cycle round of the deck is going to be the winner. And there you have China. And I have to say, as excited as I was about this game going into it, I wasn't impressed. The game is not bad by any real definition of the word. It's an older game, so it probably is, a pioneer in its day, bringing these mechanics to light and making a game that was probably very interesting back when it was originally released. But now it didn't really have any tension to it. You're just kind of picking up those cards. You have your choice of however many cards it is. You pick the cards up. You decide what you're going to do on your turn. There's relatively few decisions to be made. You make those decisions, and if it works out for you, it works out. There is some interaction between players, but it never feels tense. Now, I think it's probably a decent gateway game. I think it's probably a great game from when it was released, but by today's standards and by my standards, it really just doesn't hold up.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.